two of the most humble human beings I've ever met. Never asked for any favors for anything other than they put their heads down and work very, very hard and earn it the hard way.
The recipients that I'm going to speak of are Danny and Johnny Shaw, owners of Shaw Brothers Construction.
They embrace people, they support people because they really care. These young men came from very little, and they've never forgotten that.
You know, we started about the same time. It was back in the late 70s, and you think back on that time, they had double-digit inflation, 18% interest rates, but Johnny and Danny persevered through it. They started small and ran by the seat of their pants and never looked back.
They made it work because, in my opinion, they are what Maine is all about. They're Maine's best. When we think of Maine, we think of a state that has workers who have a work ethic, who work hard, who are proud, and Danny and Johnny Shaw are all of those.
When it comes to supporting the needs of the community or the best interest of the people who they associate with, they just respond accordingly, and they don't know how to say no.
And when they do a job, that job is well done, if probably the best job anyone's going to do.
People know if you're authentic and if you care about them. It's not something that you could just fake, And Johnny and Danny are so real and grounded. They grew up with a shovel in the hand, a rake in the hand. They'll jump off a machine and help. So they came from the ground up, no pun intended. And that's what people relate to.
If I'm in a foxhole, I want Danny Shaw and Johnny Shaw with me. They are loyal. They're going to have my back. They're not going to run away when things get tough. And besides, they'll build the best foxhole that anybody ever built.
We'll show you a video of some of what together we pulled off this summer.
You may remember that the 295 bridge in Portland over Veranda Street had to be fixed. In fact, they had to cut a section out, remove it, and put a new section they built, slide it in. It was unbelievable to see that being done. It was such an occasion that all the local officials were there, legislators were there, and the governor showed up too. There was about 6 or 8 of us standing in a circle. Danny and Johnny, myself, the governor, and a couple other people. And Danny and Johnny, they're not politicians. They don't say things to make people feel good. They don't calculate what they're going to say. They're direct. They say what it is. So we're standing there talking, and Danny says, "Bill Diamond is my #1 Democrat." The governor kind of looked, caught her by surprise. She looked over and she says, "What am I, chopped liver?" And realizing what had happened, the environment he was in, he said, "You're #2.
Started and bought the junkyard back in the 80s. We transformed that into our recycling facility, and it caught fire. I was at a salvage auction in New Hampshire, get the phone call, the building's burning down. Nobody was hurt, thank God. But I'm riding back, and Danny Shaw called, and he said, "Sean," he said, "I got an office trailer right in front of Gorham Auto Parts, and call Chief LaFavor, get the fire truck out of the way so I can back this thing in, get you back up and running." It was 2 hours from when the fire was.
Willing to face the issues where people are in very difficult situations, and they're there to help.
They've locked arms, they've worked hard, and they deserve everything they've gained.
But if I had brothers, I would want them to be just like Danny and Johnny. I would want them to have the same values, the main values. I'd want them to have the same integrity, same loyalty. Maybe I could adopt them.
Danny's a high flyer, and Johnny's pretty grounded.
Hard work, commitment, being fair, and most especially, and I know they do, they care about their people.
They always carved out that quality time to be with their children, and as they grew, and supported them and loved them, and that's an important thing that people need to understand about Jon and Dan. Family is a foundation of their beliefs and their support and their strength, and they're just wonderful husbands and dads.
I consider them not to be business relationships here. I consider them to be my friends. And I'll do whatever I need to do to support them. I respect them, I'm proud of them, and more especially, I love them.